Parts of the CPU. What is CPU? Stands for Central Processing Unit. Ang CPU ay tinatawag ng utak ng isang computer, ang nagsasagawa ng utos ng mga program. Ito ay isang maliit na chip na nakalagay sa motherboard. Pangkaraniwang ito ay napaibabaw ng fan o heatsink upang maibsan ang pag-init. Ang dalawang malaking kumpanya na gumagawa ng mga processor ay ang Intel at AMD. Component of Central Processing Unit. CPU carries out all forms of data processing tasks. It saves information, intermediate result, and instruction. CPU monitors and the functional of all computer components. CPU has the following three components: memory or storage unit, control unit, arithmetic logic unit. Memory or storage unit. The memory unit stores all the instructions and data. This unit provides data to other units of the computer if necessary. All the data and instructions required from processing are stored in the memory unit. Once the final results are processed before the results are released to output device, the memory unit stores it. 2. Control unit. Process but does not execute actual data processing. The unit monitors all computing process but does not execute actual data processing. The control units gets the memory instruction, interpret the instruction and the control and the computer operation. 3. Arithmetic logic units. This unit is the most important part that does all the calculation and makes the decision. This computing processing unit is the fundamental building block of the computer. Modern CPU contains highly complicated, efficient allos. This unit is the most important part that does all the calculation and makes the decision. The two arithmetic logics unit. First is arithmetic section. The arithmetic section performs all the mathematical calculations such as addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Second is logic section. The logic section purpose is to carry out logical activities such as the data comparison, collection, matching, and merging. Function of the Central Processing Unit. As we said from the beginning, a CPU is like a very efficient calculator. Every operation you do on the laptop has to go through these vital components. In the process of decoding data, the CPU performs four basic steps. CPU has three main functions. Fetch. Requests are stored in memory, each of which have their own address. In this step, the processor takes the address from the program counter, which is responsible for the request the CPU should execute next. Fetch. First, the CPU fetch introduction from program memory. Program memory is the location of the instruction. This location also stores a number, that is the address of the next instruction that needs to be fetched. Second, decode. After the CPU can decide what to do next with the data. This step is the decoding stage. This phase is done by the circuit known as the instruction. Decode the instruction, then transform into signal that monitor other parts of the CPU. Execute. The execution stage takes place after the step of the fetching and decoding. The results of the execution are the Update to the Internet CPU registration. Parts of the CPU components. System fan. Alternatively referred to as a system fan, a case fan is located inside a computer attached to the front or back of its case. Case fans help bring cool air into a blow hot air out of the case. 2. Power supply. A power supply is a hardware component that supplies power to an electrical device. It receives power from electrical outlet and converts the current from AC alternating current to DC direct current, which is what the computer requires. Motherboard. Motherboard is one of the most essential parts of computer system. It holds together many of the critical components of a computer, including the central processing unit (CPU), memory, and connector from input and output device. Third, processor CPU. A processor CPU is the logic circuitry that responds to and processes the basic instruction that drive a computer. The CPU is seen as the main and the most crucial integrated circuitry IC chip in a computer, as it is responsible for interpreting most of the computer commands. 4. RAM module. A memory module is another name of RAM chip. It is often used as general terms used to describe SIM, DIMM, and so DIMM memory. Optical drive. An optical drive is a type of computer disk drive that reads and writes data from optical disk. Through laser beaming technology, this type of drive allows a user to retrieve, edit, and delete the content from optical discs such as CDs, DVDs, and Blu-ray discs. Optical drives are among the most common computer components. Hard drive. A computer hard disk drive (HDD) is non-volatile memory hardware device that controls the positioning, reading, and writing of the hard disk, which furnishes data storage. Hard disk drives are commonly used as the main storage device in a computer. Heatsink. A heatsink is a device that incorporates a fan or another mechanism to reduce the temperature of hardware components. There are two heatsink types, active and passive. The picture is an example of heatsink that has both active and passive cooling mechanism. Floppy. A floppy disk controller, FDC, is a special purpose chip and associated disk controller circuitry that directs and controls reading from the writing to computer floppy disk drive.